Well, hello guys, this is Konrad speaking. In today's video, we're gonna break down exactly the entire process I used to generate over $5,000 each month on UpWork. And we're gonna first start with the most important aspect of this video, which is having a sip of Yerba. So first I'm gonna just pour a little bit, so it's gonna wait for us to first go through. The number one thing I would say is that you have to first keep in mind is basically thinking of UpWork as a long-term game rather than like some short-term win, and you have to play that game accordingly. And what I mean by that is basically that instead of focusing on, like how can I get cash quickly and how can I quickly earn some big money, you have to think of it as an asset. It's kind of like more like investing. You want to build up your profile, you want to experiment, you want to build systems, you want to find what works, which takes time. So I would say the first thing you have to kind of get through your head and kind of eliminate immediately is just like this idea that, hey, UpWork is freelance and this is just like a quick cash. This is not long-term. I would say the more long-term you look at it, or at least, like midterm, the better you're gonna play this game, basically. So this is just like a number one mindset thing you have to keep in mind. The next thing is don't think how can you make money with what you already know, but rather look at where there is a demand and where there is a shortage of supply. So it's not just important that you look. Obviously, it's good if you can find something that you're already good at, and potentially there is a demand for it and there's not that much supply, but there's a high chance that it's not going to be the case. And for this reason, you gotta make research. You gotta make the account on UpWork, and you have to browse different niches that are potentially related to what you already know, but not necessarily. And you just have to find where there is a discrepancy between like how many people are applying and how many jobs people are posting, and also like what are the sizes of those jobs? Because if there's something that's worth like $10, then maybe even though there's a lot of demand for it, not much supply, I don't know if you're gonna make much cash on it. So I'd say these are like really important things. I can tell you like what has worked for me, for example. So I started with copywriting, but I didn't know exactly which specific niche to choose. So instead of going for just what I thought would be great, which is maybe like website creating or landing page copywriting, I saw that there is a demand for cold email and B2B copywriting. And even though I had no idea about it, I decided to kind of specialize in that, which ties to the next point, which is basically that you don't want to an UpWork is a bit different than like, let's say LinkedIn or in general business, where you want to specialize in a niche. On UpWork, rather than specializing in a particular niche, I would say what works better is specializing in a technology or a type of service. So for example, like, cold email copywriting, or maybe like Zapier automation or something like that. That's like very specific, but it's not niche specific. So it's not like for consultants or for real estate, because it's very high chance that there's not going to be enough demand for you. But at the same time, you cannot go general, because the more general you go, the bigger competition you have, and then you're gonna not win that game. Like the only way you win on UpWork is if you are like most specialized in whatever, and you are the best person there, and also you are premium, which ties to the next point, which is like you don't want to play the price game on UpWork. Like you're never gonna win, trying to be cheaper, faster. Or just basically the low cost option, because there's always going to be someone from developing countries. I'm not going to name the countries, but you can imagine that is always going to win that battle. Like they can offer to do something for $10. So the only way you win is you don't compete on price, but you gotta compete on the specialization and quality, and potentially, there are some other aspects like speed of delivery and whatever, or maybe your your expertise in that specific niche. But at the same time, you don't want to go too high, because what I noticed, I've been experimenting a lot on UpWork, which is necessary, and that's actually going to be my next point. And I noticed that, you know, that there's like a sweet spot, and I think that sweet spot is not necessarily always the same. For me, what I found, the sweet spot is around like $70, $80 an hour, even though I don't take hourly projects. If you take it too high, you're going to have less projects, less invites, because unfortunately you don't want to work hourly, which is a big point too. But at the same time, a lot of clients look at your hourly rate and they kind of judge by that. And you have to just basically, there's no, I cannot give you exact range because it really depends on your niche. In copywriting, also depends. But for me in copywriting, for example, B2B, it's like around $70, $80. When I take it to 100, I'm really in that very, very premium range. There's not that many people there. And like, you really have to justify that. So you really have to be like, have a lot of portfolio and everything. So, which I don't have. And then when you go below, then you kind of compete already with that people that are cheap. So I think for me in that specific type, that's the sweet range. And yeah, like what I was saying, the next point, which is just experimenting. So I would say the only way you can find what works for you is if you experiment a lot. So for example, you know, the way I've been able to get successfully to like 5,000 is by experimenting with a lot of things. So experimenting with proposals. For example, one big tip is, I would say, video proposals beats the text proposals. You know, like by a wide margin, like you're gonna have so much more success. First try personalized videos, then you can maybe scale them to be like more general. But that ties to the point of experimenting. So you experiment with your head titles, you experiment with your profile description, you experiment with your skills, you experiment with your searches, like what you're looking for, like what keywords you use, because that's a lot of optimization there. But the only way you can do it is if you experiment. But tying to the next point, you want to experiment, but you also want to do those things that are proven to work. And that if you repeat them, you're gonna for sure be have a higher percentage of chance of having success, of landing jobs, gigs, landing clients, landing sales calls, than if not. So for example, the basics are basically, you gotta apply every day. You gotta best if you can apply in the morning and in the evening. The faster, the better, because that's just a proven formula. Like the faster between when the client posts and you apply, the higher chance you're gonna get a response call and you know, get hired. You know, the next consistency is basically you know, just doing some proven things, like adding the first name into proposal, customizing the first line into proposal, because that's what people see. Answering questions when people have in the job, because when people scroll, they see that the question is number one before your cover letter. So there's just like some proven things that you have to do, and then also experiment on top of that. Also, one big thing I would say is like your number one thing, if you're just getting started on UpWork, is to get a top rated status or raising star. Like that's going to boost so much. So read on terms on UpWork. How can you get raising status? How can you get the top rated? And never try to lose it. I lost it. And I now know that, you know, I should have done something. So I should have talked to a client. I had an option to also remove one bad feedback when you have top rated. So remember, like, your job is to get there and stay there, and that requires to have 90+% success score. So that means basically over delivering, like making sure the client is happy, doing a really good job, being on point with your deadlines. One other thing I would say, what's next? I would say that's really important when it comes to your profile, like how can you really get above people, is that you shouldn't look at everything, because there's a lot of things that are just like pointless. The key things are your headline, your profile description, your portfolio. So make sure that your portfolio is relevant. You experiment with it too. So you add maybe different pictures, something that grabs attention. You put it in different formats. But the most important thing is that it's there, like the portfolio. Some clients are going to look at it, some are not, but you want to have it there so that when someone looks at your profile, even when they scan it, they see, oh, this guy like has experience, he has portfolio. that makes you again like just have a small edge over your competition. In general, your goal should be to get calls, not sell via chat. I haven't made it work. My experience is that even the low ticket sales, it's really hard to make them on chat, unless you are very cheap, but you don't want to, thank the first point. So I would say do everything in your power to, create a Calendly link for each type of job so you can track it or whatever. Just make a really good funnel there in Calendly, or just schedule it via chat, but make sure that you actually have calls with your clients before you sell them anything, before you tell them any price, before you tell them any, how you work, because it's just one thing. You first want to know if they're a good client, because on Upwork, there's many that are not. And another one is that basically you want to, increase your perceived value. And the only way you can do that is if you have a call, you understand them, you ask them the right questions, you show them you know what you're talking about. And with your chat, you cannot do it. I haven't been able to make it work. I have friends who also haven't been able to make it work. So I would say that's a safe bet that you should aim for getting calls rather than trying to sell somebody via chat. And try to, in general, as the last point, try to slowly, when you're growing Upwork. That's what I've done is that, you do it yourself all the time, and you try to find systems in there. So you try to find systems as to like, how can you more easily improve it, track it, replicate it. And you basically, create tracking sheets. I've just created, I can maybe share on some better video. I've just had somebody create a tracking sheet for me so I can have better insights as to, because I do like 20 proposals a day, something like that. And in different categories, I have different searches, which some I'm experimenting, some are proven to work. And I'm basically tracking, how many I do a day, what's the cost that it costs me to send those, how many, calls I get from each of them, what is the conversion, like how many sales I close, what's the deal value. And this way, over a month or 2 or 3, I will have insights like what's happening. And if there's some problem, I will be able to easily spot it. At the beginning, it's not possible to do it because you first have to find some things that work. You have to understand the system, but keep in mind that this is kind of your goal. You want to systemize it. You don't want to just wing it. Eventually, you just want to go in there every day, know what to do, where to put it, have insights, make it so that it's very consistent, and it doesn't have to at the same time consistent, but on the other hand, it gives you insight, so you're able to experiment and get data. So you don't just think, I think this is working better. You want to know what's working, and the only way is if you track it and if you build systems. So basically, this is the video for today when it comes to Upwork and how I generate, $5,000 a month and more through copywriting, specifically B2B copywriting. These are my main principles and ideas that I've used and that I see that are the key in how I've made it work. And I hopefully that if you use them and you apply to your profile and your Upwork kind of journey, that you're going to have a faster success and you're going to kind of win out among all these other freelancers that are just now getting there. And, with this market now, Corona situation, it's going to be more and more people. So you want to think more than that you do. And then if you apply those principles that I told you, you're going to have a really good time. And as the last thing, I'm going to have finally a sip of Yerba. Maybe I will make a video one day as to why I love Yerba so much. But for today, thank you guys so much for your attention. If you liked the video, then click comment, let me know what are some things that you are struggling with on Upwork, or what have you seen work. Maybe there's something that I missed. And then if you like the channel, if you like this type of videos, just subscribe. I will try to make them very regularly, a few times a week, on topics from freelance to Upwork to copywriting to business related. So for today, thank you so much, and I will see you next time, my friends. stay vigilant.